Stern Show.
I think it was really generous and loving of your father to carry you around to all these games, help you to broadcast, and then when you got your first job, how old were you, 21 when you start announcing St. Louis baseball?
Yeah. And he and I were partners then. He and I were broadcast partners. So I was on the broadcast with my dad, and I got all that time back that I missed when he was traveling around doing all these games. So it, as opposed to my brothers and sisters, I got to see him. I got to work with him. I called him my partner. It'd be like you and your dad sitting here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
But you even said the devastating part of sitting next to your father or working in that environment. Suddenly, the St. Louis newspaper writes, "Why are we being force-fed Joe Buck? Why are we fans being force-fed?" And that devastated you, right?
I mean, it was before I even got on the air. And it was just the nepotism charge, which it was right. I mean, that's how human nature is. And there's no way I'm sitting there if I'm not Jack Buck's kid.
Right. But
why
why
I
did you
even
carry
started?
Why did you carry that article around with you in your wallet?
It was
for
motivation.
Years? Was it?
Yeah.
It's almost like torture to sit there and be reminded of that comment.
Yeah. I don't know why I keep some of that stuff, but I do. It motivates me to work hard. It was a good, I cried like a baby, and I read it. It's a one newspaper town, and it was like, oh my God, when something like that's written about you, you feel like the whole world is thinking about it, hates you, and I was like, my God, I haven't even begun.
Meanwhile, the guy who wrote it probably just did it flippantly, you know what I mean? And probably never gave it another
Well, it's an
thought.
easy article to write.
Yeah.
And he and I become friends, and when my dad was dying in the hospital.
You sure your half-brother didn't write this?
You may have.
Did any of them try to go into sportscasting?
Yeah, I have a half-sister, Christine, who's had a long career in radio and television, same for like news and weather and.
But you guys don't communicate at all.
No, we do.
Oh, you do. Yeah.
I do more with her kids and her husband, but there's always been that strain there. But when my dad was dying, that guy who wrote that article about me when I started, he was still in that position, and he was kind of pumping me for information about my dad because the whole community is waiting for my dad to get out of the hospital. Now, I knew he wasn't going to get out of the hospital. He had lung cancer, then he had Parkinson's, diabetes, all these other things, and it wouldn't allow him to heal. Mm-hmm. So he's in the hospital, he gets an infection, and he's just withering away. And I'm visiting, I'm there every day. Well, as he's dying, one night I walk in there after a baseball game. I stop there on the way after a ball game. And I go into his room, and he's mouthing, because he had a trach deal too. Mm. And he's mouthing to me, "Will you do me a favor?" I was like, "Yeah. I mean, I already told you that, we're as close as we are. Will you do me a favor?" "Yeah, what is it?" "Will you let me die?" And it took me back a little bit, and I said, "Dad, I know it's frustrating, but I'm on the outside, and I'm talking to the doctors. We're going to beat this. He goes, No. "Will you let me die?" I said, "Let's give this 2 weeks. If it doesn't get better," and he's just kind of brushed me off like, "Get out of here. You're pissing me off.
You're not listening to me."
So 2 weeks go by. He goes through a series of strokes. The head of the hospital comes to me, and he says, "I'm going to tell this to you as your friend. Your dad's not getting out of here. We will do everything we can to keep him alive, but he's not leaving this hospital."
Right.
I said, "Okay." He said, "So you need to find a day when this is going to end." So we picked the day, and we point everything toward that day. The day starts, they pull all the tubes out of him. He's been on a respirator. They took his pacemaker out. For once he was clean.
Right.
Instead of beeping and all these noises and everything, he's in his bed. And everybody's waiting. Now, the night before, I went in there, and I said everything I wanted to say to him. I was with my first wife.
Was he conscious?
I was with my sister. He was conscious.
Yeah.
And I said, I want you to know that it's okay to go. I've got Mom. I've got Julie. I'll take care of everything.
Right.
You've done everything you can do. Now, be ready to go peacefully. Well, the next day comes, they pull all this stuff out of him, and everybody shows up. And I said, you know what? This isn't a movie. I don't need to watch him die.
Right.
I said what I wanted to say. So I'm getting updates from my sister who's there. 10 o'clock, he's alive. 11 o'clock, he's alive. 12 o'clock, he's alive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have to go down and do a Cardinal baseball game on TV. And so I went to work because I knew that's what he would want me to do. And they pulled the TV down by his head, and they let him listen to the broadcast while I was on there.
Wow.
And he listens to he's alive without any help. He's been in there for 7 months on a respirator, no help whatsoever. I get out of the game. I tell the guy I'm working with, my dad's going to die tonight. He breaks down. We continue to do the game. I get in my car, I drive home, and on the way home is the hospital right off the highway. And I pull off, and I'm going to go again. So I walk up, I go to his room. It was peaceful. I bent down into his ear. I said goodbye again, told him everything was covered. I walked out, and by the time I got to my car, he was dead. And there's just there was a bond we had, and there was something there that I think he wanted me to say goodbye. And for him to stay alive that entire day was everything he was about. He was the toughest guy I knew.
He was your best friend.
He was. He was my best friend. And for him to let me trail around with him on all these road trips, and to see the life and to see the joy he got out of that life was the greatest gift he could ever give me. It set me up for the rest of my life. Whether I got the start because of nepotism, I got the love because of him.
Yeah. Did those other siblings go? The half siblings? Did they ever go to the hospital?
Oh, God, yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
They still had a relationship with him.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. The relationship strain was between those kids and my sister.
And now, here we are with the book. Joe's book, Lucky Bastard, is available wherever books are sold.
That kind of brings it down.